The year was 1970. Richard Nixon was serving his second year as president. The Vietnam War was raging on. Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water was a huge success. Douglas Engelbart received a patent for the first computer mouse. And the year prior, the US had landed on the moon, not once, but twice. It was a time of progress and success for NASA, and they weren't going to stop at just 2 moon landings. They had prepared for a third, and it was to be called the Apollo 13. Little did they know what was going to happen. The most important part of a mission is the crew, so it was important to choose the best of the best. As the commander of the mission, James Lovell was more than qualified. He was the world's most experienced astronaut with 572 hours spent in space. As the Lunar Module pilot, Fred Hayes had his fair share of experience as well. He served in the US Marine Corps as a fighter pilot and joined NASA as a test pilot. As the command module pilot, Ken Mattingly was the top pick. However, just 48 hours before the launch, Mattingly was exposed to German measles and they had to replace him with his backup, John Swigert. With the crew assembled and the powerful Saturn V prepared, it was time for launch.
20 seconds, T-minus 20 seconds and counting. 17, guidance release, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence has started. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
On April 11th at 2:13 p.m., the 5 F-1 rocket engines roared to life, and the Saturn V slowly lifted off the ground with 3 crew members on board.
And it has cleared the tower.
It's another beauty.
The launch went on without a hitch, and it was looking to be NASA's least problematic mission yet. After getting on a trans-lunar trajectory and doing a quick broadcast, they could kick back and relax.
This is the crew of Apollo 13, wishing everybody there nice evening, and we're just about ready to close out our inspection of Aquarius and get back for a pleasant evening at Odyssey. Good night.
We've got one more item for you when you get a chance. We'd like it to stir up your cryo tanks. In addition, I have Shaft and Trunnion for a look at the Comet Bennett if you need it.
Okay, stand by.
Yeah, they had a problem, alright. The crew was over 200,000 miles from Earth, and there had just been an explosion on the ship. The damage was pretty severe. Of the 2 oxygen tanks on the command module, one was leaking oxygen, and the other one was gone entirely. On top of this, they were losing power from the fuel cells. Mission Control told them that getting into the Lunar Module was their best bet, so the 3 crew members made their way into a 2-person space.
Although the Lunar Module was in working condition, it was never meant to support 3 people for a trip back to Earth. This caused quite a few problems. For starters, the navigation systems in the Lunar Module were rudimentary at best, only meant to land on the moon. Also, there was only enough water for 2 crew members, and the cooling system needed its own water. Because of this, they had to ration out how much water they could have. On top of this, the power supply was quickly diminishing, so they had to turn off all unnecessary systems. This included the heater. As if this wasn't enough for the dehydrated and freezing crew, they started to get extremely tired and found it hard to think straight. After some brainstorming and mission control, they concluded that there must have been an excess of CO2 in the module, as it was only meant to support 2 people for a few days. In order to combat this, the people back on Earth came up with the ingenious idea to shove a bunch of junk into the filter and tape it in. Surprisingly, this worked, and after some painstakingly long maths, done by hand, they were able to perform a rocket burn and be on their way home. After some correction burns, the crew was almost back home. At this point, the command module was basically a block of ice since they had to turn off the heater. The question on everyone's mind, would it even turn on? The crew crossed their fingers and hoped as they pressed the big red power button. Luckily, NASA had implemented some failsafes due to the Apollo 1 disaster that prevented any electrical shorts. They were worried that melting ice may cause the ship to go up in flames. With the much more spacious command module booted up, they ditched the lunar module and buckled their seatbelts. It was going to be one heck of a ride. There was just a small problem. There was a decent chance that the heat shield on the command module could have been damaged during the explosion. If this was the case, the crew would end up like Apollo 1.
Flying at 16,785 miles per hour, the command module hit Earth's atmosphere. Mission Control lost contact with the crew. Mission Control waited anxiously. Like other missions, it would take 4 minutes before they could re-establish communications. So they waited. And they waited. 4 minutes passed. And still nothing. Mission Control grew worried. 5 minutes, still nothing. Finally, a response. Despite their worries, the crew had survived reentry, and they were slowly gliding to the water below. It turned out their approach had been too shallow, and that's why it took so long. Other than that, it was a textbook splashdown, and the 3 crew members survived.
The world was back to the way it started. The year was 1970. Richard Nixon was serving his second year as president. The Vietnam War was still raging on, and the US had landed on the moon only twice. Despite the overall failure to land on the moon, NASA and the entirety of America learned many things from the Apollo 13 mission. For starters, they learned to double-check the oxygen tanks before launch. But more importantly, they learned that nothing was impossible with the dedication and will of the American people. Not even the cold and empty void of space could stop them from bringing back those men. With enough courage, hope, and determination, the impossible was possible. And with that, the Apollo 13 mission was deemed a successful failure.